Good evening, YouTube. Good night. Tonight, I want to talk about a crisis in manhood. There is a crisis in manhood in the United States. When you travel abroad, like I do, you realize that the men, they operate by a different code. And the code by which these other men outside of the USA operate is basically family, wife, children, mothers, sons, and so on, children, sons, and daughters. So I'm going to begin by giving some concrete example of what manhood is, because there is such a thing as manhood. We cannot suddenly become in amazement to where we don't want to define things anymore. That's a lazy way of thinking. When suddenly we do not feel the need to define our lives, to define the important things in our lives, to define the functions of individuals in our lives, then we are suddenly faced with what we call a crisis of our own lives. And this is what's happening in the USA right now, because we refuse to define things. We want to be politically correct. There is no such thing as political correctness. The only correctness there are the simple things that you have to apply to live a healthy lifestyle. But aside from that, nothing is politically correct. There is no correctedness when it comes to common sense and logic. The minute you step out of common sense, the minute you step out of logic, then you become incorrect. So political correctness has very little value outside of the United States. In the United States, and I know this because I'm an American, I'm a full-blooded American, okay? So that's how I have the liberty to speak about the United States. So the minute you travel outside of the United States, you begin to understand that we have done a poor job at defining manhood, at defining the principles which govern manhood, especially in the 20th and the 21st century. We have dropped the ball. Tonight, I want to talk about the crisis in manhood, and the person who inspired me to speak about crisis in manhood is Tommy Sotomayor. I believe it was yesterday, I had contact with Tommy Sotomayor where I called his show. And when I called his show, I began to speak with Tommy Sotomayor using logic, of course. But what I ended up learning, and I didn't learn anything more about Tommy Sotomayor, but I learned something more about the crisis that we are having in manhood. Because of the response, because of how Tommy Sotomayor responded to my logic, then it took me somewhere else, to where now I'm seeing things more clearly, because his behavior is becoming evidence to support what I had already been working towards, okay? So, why are we having a crisis in manhood? We are having a crisis in manhood because we have not taken the time to uphold manhood. Because if you look at the United States in the 70s, in the 60s, in the 40s, manhood was something that was a privilege that was more accorded to white males. Okay, a white male in that moment, he was the head of a household, and he was guiding a nuclear family. So when you look at the concept of manhood for blacks in the United States, it's almost non-existent. It's almost like a phantom. It's almost a privilege that they never had. And manhood is something that Mother Nature affords us. It's not something that you can count on another human to create for you. So the fact that manhood is being designed It's a matter of, I would say right now, manhood is something that we are putting together superficially. So the superficial makeup of manhood is where the crisis begins, because men are no longer to act upon what he feels is inane within him. The pursuit of happiness no longer involves pursuing happiness, because right now it's not something new, but manhood also comes with responsibilities. If you are a man, you are expected to be strong, you are expected to be pretty much hard, you are expected to be not so much emotional, you are expected to have something, you're expected to have wealth, you're expected to take care of people. And I'm going to go to my culture. I'm a Haitian woman, I'm an American woman, full-blooded American woman, because I'm a Haitian woman. That's what we are. As Haitians, we are full-blooded Americans. So, as a Haitian woman with a different way of life, because for the Haitian people, our way of life is rooted in voodoo. For the Haitian people, voodoo is not a religion, voodoo is a way of life. So when you're looking at a man in the Haitian culture, that man has responsibilities. He has to be responsible. Not only that, the first responsibility that a man has is the responsibility towards his mother. That's one of the things that when we come to the United States, we see that the men, not only are they dropping the ball, they are forgetting that the first responsibility is towards the womb, towards their mother. So, that man, once he becomes like 16, 17, when you're looking at the life of a Haitian man, once he becomes like 16, 17, his mother is expecting him to carry out certain chores, to carry out certain responsibilities. And in the case where the mother may not have certain things, or the son and the father will get together when he becomes of a certain age to make sure that the mother has these things. It's really like, it's really exceptional. It's really something that you have to live to understand it. Because when you come to the United States, okay, this man can claim he's rich, and his mother could be living in the hood. His mother could be living in the worst conditions, and he doesn't feel that it's his responsibility to remove his mother from those terrible living conditions. So when we come to the United States, we are seeing that the responsibilities of a man, they are changing, because back in the days of the United States, in the 40s and 30s, where manhood was only something that was regarded as a white male attribute. And then you're coming to the 80s, to the end of the 70s, to the 80s and the 90s, where black males are now manifesting manhood. And the minute that they took a more open public ownership of manhood, that's when manhood started changing. I don't know if you realize that about the United States of America. The minute that you have non-whites begin to assert certain natural privileges, because those are the privileges that Mother Nature affords us. Being a man and exercising manhood is not something another male affords to you. This is something that Mother Nature affords to all males. And I will correct myself. I will say to a majority of males, because we will find that not all men are equipped to manifest manhood. So when you come to the United States, you realize that a lot of the responsibilities that men have towards their mothers outside of this country, when you come to this country, it's not the case. The men do not bear such responsibilities on a general level. And what I'm doing right now is I'm generalizing. I'm generalizing for the sake of discussion, because we cannot go and make case by case situational instances for everything I'm saying. So just because I'm saying this is the case for Haiti, it doesn't mean that every single Haitians follow that. And just because I'm saying this is the case for the United States, it does not mean that every single one of us Americans do as I'm saying. Okay, so you're seeing a situation where the males, even towards their own mothers, they do not feel that they have a certain responsibilities. So you will find that a man could be rich or whatnot, and he's 30, 40, single, available, and his mother is living in horrible conditions, but he's not taking actions to accommodate that mother in any way, financially, emotionally, spiritually. He doesn't feel that that's his responsibility. So the number one thing that I'm seeing that United States males, where they drop the ball, is the responsibility towards the womb where they came from. So the number one duty of a male, of a human male, is to carry out certain responsibility towards the womb from whence you came. But in the United States, we are seeing that a lot of the males, they drop the ball in that instance. The second responsibility for a male is towards himself. Okay? Like in the Haitian culture, males are not raised the same way that females are raised, because the Haitian culture is structured differently than the United States culture. So when you, like, let's say, when I was growing up in Haiti, I was the only female in my family. All I had was uncles and cousins and stuff like that. So in Haiti, even though females are raised differently, but there is no such thing where someone would say, oh, you're a female, you can't do this. Or someone would say, you're a female, you're not allowed to do that. But there are things that they will say, well, there are certain foods or fruits that an elder might say to you, you're a female, you can't eat this food because it will stop your menstruation. Because men and women are not the same. So the minute you begin to think that men and women can receive the same treatment, it's a falsity. It will crumble everything else. Because all you need is one false to negate an entire stream of logic. So in Haiti, men and women are not treated the same way, but it doesn't mean that we have, until our relations with the Western world became something so concrete, we did not have discriminations against women like we do in the United States. We didn't have it. So it's becoming something new for the Haitian culture. It's becoming something that was introduced in the last 50 years where men and women, I would say, where you would have this thing called discrimination against women. Before that, it was just a natural flow of life where women knew there were things that we couldn't do and men knew there were things that we couldn't do. So me, when I was growing up, I was the only girl. I did everything I wanted to do. And when it became time where I couldn't do it, I knew I couldn't do it because I used to be an avid soccer player. I would play soccer all the time. And I would play volleyball. I was in a volleyball team. I was an athlete. So it came a time when I became like around 11 years old where I knew I couldn't play soccer the same way I used to play soccer. First of all, there was this move that I used to love to do where I would bounce the ball, just bounce and, kick it with my head, all of that. I'm a soccer player. But when I became around 11 years old, bouncing the ball like on my chest, it became so hard. It became so painful because I was burgeoning breast. So the limitation for me at that moment wasn't going to be boys saying, hey, you can't play soccer at the time, because I don't have any experience where any boys denied me placement in a soccer team just because I was a girl. If I was denied, and I was never denied because I was that good, but if I was to ever be denied, it would be because there was another player that was better than me, and it had nothing to do with whether or not that player was boy or girl. So the way that we grow and we accommodate Mother Nature rather than accommodate the will of another human being, that's the difference between the Haitian culture and the United States culture. The United States culture is built to accommodate the will of other humans. And most of these other humans are male humans or Caucasian male humans. Whereas we in the Haitian culture, we accommodate the will of Mother Nature. It's a major difference. It's a huge difference. So like I said, this topic where I'm talking about the crisis in manhood, that topic is inspired by Tommy Sotomayor, because yesterday I tried to have a logical conversation with Tommy Sotomayor, and I could not, because his logic is rooted in the distorted facts, and my logic is rooted in harmony with Mother Nature. He will never understand me, whereas I understand him. I understand where he's coming from. I understand his deficiencies. And we will get into all of these deficiencies as I'm moving on with the live. But I just want to give a backdrop on why and what qualifies me, first of all, to do this live. Or my experiences, international, local, or whatnot, qualify me to do this live. My experiences as a professional, my experiences working in the community, my experiences as an activist, my experiences as a worker, first of all, qualify me. And last of all, are my experiences as a parent. So, when you're looking into the building of a male, I'm using the Haitian culture as an example, whereas when this young man becomes of a certain age, first of all, let me go back to the beginning. There was a major step that I skipped here. The major step that I skipped is the relationship that a woman has with a baby when she's raising that baby. We are finding in the United States of America that a lot of the males are detached from the feminine energy. When I say detached, I don't mean that they don't display feminine energy. But what I'm saying is that they are detached from the femininity, there is a lack of bonding between those males and in their original state of babyhood. There is a lack of bonding. So let me explain what that means. Meaning that if you have a child and your child, you have a baby, you have a male child, because a lot of these males in the United States, they have not received proper bonding from their mothers to where they can go out in the world and be secure and stand in affirmation of himself. He doesn't have that element of parenting to equip him to become the man that he would even envision himself to be. That man he will only see on TV. That man is only a dream to him. He doesn't know that man inside of him. So let me go back to the first step, to the first where we went wrong. And I'm comparing Haitian culture because we have to have a point of reference. We have to have something to compare this chaos to. And the Haitian culture at this moment in the 21st century is your only salvage, because it's the most sacred, the purest way of life for the original people of the world that is right now, that is existing, that has not been demolished, that has not been, and even though the Haitian culture is under attack, but the Haitian way of life is still functioning and it's still pure. So if you were to go to Haiti and you were to go to Port-au-Prince, you might meet people who are living like an international lifestyle. But if you were to go to other parts, to the countrysides and everything, you would see that the lifestyle of the Haitian people, the lifestyle of the original people of the world is still intact. So let's go back to the makeup of a man. In Haiti, when a woman has a child, and I'm only saying male because we are talking about crisis in manhood, because that child could be male or female, it wouldn't make a difference. In Haiti, when a woman has a male child or a female child, the process of carrying that baby is different. You will not find a woman in Haiti giving while she's pregnant. You will not find her smoking. You will not find her drinking. You will not find her tending her womb in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that there is not one or two Haitians who do it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is we are comparing the process of raising a man, and we are seeing that we are having a crisis in masculinity. So for us to understand the crisis in masculinity, it requires us to know the difference, to have a point of reference. If you don't have a point of reference to compare, how can you know where you have gone wrong? One thing I can say about African Americans in the United States, blacks in the United States, one thing I can say about African Americans is they have a thirst for truth. A lot of times I feel so terrible to see how their innocence have been tinted with lies, and how people who truly desire to find themselves are stirred each and every time into the wrong path. I sympathize with that. That breaks my heart. That's one thing I can say literally breaks my heart apart, because I know had these people, had they been given, had they not been robbed of the opportunity to have real relationships with Mother Nature, they would be the finest on earth. Let's continue with the process of carrying a child, the difference between a Haitian woman and a United Statian woman. At this moment, in the 20th and the 21st century, we are seeing that a lot of women who are pregnant in the United States are contaminating their pregnancies with outside agents. A lot of these women, most of these women who are pregnant, they are taking psych drugs. You have to understand that we are living in a society where most people are taking drugs, psychiatric drugs, other recreational drugs, okay? I call them, they're fantasy drugs as well. So we are looking at women who are pregnant, and while they are pregnant, they are tainting the pregnancy. They are contaminating the pregnancy. So by the time the child is born, that child is not the same, because while you were pregnant, you took all type of psych drugs, you took all type of other outside agents that interfered with the process of this growth. And whether you can see the difference and what the interference created is something else, because the difference is pure and the difference is real and the difference is here. It's now. You can see it. If you are watching my live, I think, matter of fact, I wasn't aware, but I do realize now that I had about 2 people watching. I'm new to doing live on YouTube. So if you are watching my live, it's only natural. Do not fight against the natural thing to do. The natural thing to do is to thumbs up, and the natural thing to do is to subscribe. So as you are moving into pregnancy to birth, when a Haitian woman gives birth, I remember me when I gave birth to my son, I had a delegation of women in my house, from godmothers to grandmothers to all of that. The delegation of women, they came with medicine and they came with advice and they came with everything to make sure that I would not contaminate that child and that I would not hurt that child, and that child was receiving the best care and that I was receiving the best care. Because when a woman gives birth, she is wide open. At that moment, she can die just like that. It's one of the most vulnerable moments in a woman's life when she's pregnant and after she's given birth. It's a vulnerable situation for the mother and for the baby. So after a Haitian woman gives birth, she's not allowed to step outside. She's not allowed to even step barefooted on the floor. The baby is not allowed to come into contact with outside air or outside agents. It's a secluded moment where the focus is on cleansing the womb, closing that hole, because you just opened the big hole. So the focus at that moment is health and returning of health and promoting life for mother and child. And then not only that, there are a lot of herbs that come into contact. Herbs that are, people go and fetch herbs in the woods. They go and fetch all these different herbs, because at that moment, the woman, the mother, she's about to go through a process called vapor. For me, it was one of the most painful processes I had ever been through, but I'm just so happy that I went through it. The process of vaporization is when all these herbs are combined to create medication to seal you and clean your womb. And you as a woman, you are sat upon this vapor, this hot liquid that is emanating vapor, and you are sat on that and covered from head to toe, so the womb can sweat out. Anything left in that womb is going to be sweat out. Anything left. And then any excess, even if it's excess fat, excess whatever, because from that moment, you sweat out. I mean, I sweated so profusely, but that process is done numerous times. So as a woman gives birth, it's a tedious thing. I was tired of all the things but at the same time, it was necessary. And now we're talking about food. At that moment, after a woman gives birth, there are certain type of foods that she's not allowed to eat. And there are certain type of foods that she's encouraged to eat. So at that moment, I was given a regimen. And the regimen I was given was made of solid food. Solid food that would, because according to my grandmother, I have holes in my body now that I need to fill in. See, if you look at me, you can see that I'm a solid woman. It's because I have no air. I have to say, I have very little air, very little fat, very little air. And I know my body is made up of water, but I don't have excess water that's not supposed to be there. So at that moment, after giving birth, a woman is treated in a sacred way. Her body is sacred. The child is sacred. In the United States, I don't see that. And not only that, my grandmother, they had to fetch from the woods. They had to cut from a certain tree, barks of that tree, and that tree was boiled, and that's all I was allowed to drink for weeks. I was not allowed to drink water because that potion I was drinking was to flush everything out of my body, excess blood, excess glare, excess fat, excess mucus, excess everything, and I was not allowed to drink anything else. So you're looking at the process, the culture of having a child, whereas in the United States, the culture of having a child is banal. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I see these women. I go to Walmart and I see these women with babies that are just born. It breaks my heart. For them, it's natural. It's normal. Like, I remember when I first came to this country, like a lot of Haitians, when we first come to this country, it's like, oh my God. It's a shock when you see women who are pregnant and the things they do. When you see women with children and the things they do with these children and the way they carry these children. It will affect those children later, and you are refusing to understand how it affects those children later, and you are refusing to understand how come we have a crisis in masculinity. How? It's from the beginning. About last year, I'm driving downtown Atlanta. Matter of fact, it wasn't even downtown. It was like I was coming from, where's that little bar at? Island Boulevard, something like that. I was coming from there, and here is a little light-skinned bitch. Oh my God, little light-skinned bitch. And she's a young bitch. She could be about 22, 25. She's working with a man. Her belly is popping out at least 7 months. And this little light-skinned hoe has a cigarette in her mouth. Yes, I pull my car. I pull over. I'm not playing with her. She's disgusting me at that moment. I'm not playing with her. I pull over and I say, hey, bitch, that tastes good to you. That tastes good in your mouth, huh, ho? And she's like, and I said, bitch, don't forget to tell that little bastard in your belly when he gets old and bitter and he starts complaining about immigrants here and immigrant there and this here and this there, don't forget to tell that little bastard that it was his mama or her mama who dropped the ball. It was you, bitch, who dropped the ball. You dropped the ball. And after I told her that, and I ensured that she understood what I was telling her, I left. I drove off. So you have women who are putting their children at a deficit from the moment they are in the belly. From the moment they are in the belly, these children are at a deficit. Like I said, a lot of these children in the womb, they come into contact with various agents, foreign agents, drug agents, stuff that should not even be part of the I forgot the rest of the words. Shame on me, because I went to RN school and all. I should have remembered that. I can't remember. Something sac. Okay? So in that moment, after the child is born, when you see a child after the child is born in the United States, the child could be 2-3 days old, and you see the child outside, and you see strangers around it. It's a very delicate moment. That child should not be anywhere. The mother should not be anywhere, but inside, secluded. After you have a baby in Haiti, the seclusion is 3 months. 3 months. Here, it's not even 3 days. Women are outside, kakalacking. I have seen women who had just had children 1 week put on jeans and walk outside and go to work. It's a crime. You're committing against yourself and your child and your child's future. So let's go into we are having a masculine crisis. We are having a crisis in manhood. And that crisis starts from the way that we carry these children in our bellies to the way that after we give birth to them. The post-birth experience is horrible for children in the United States. It's a traumatizing experience for children in the United States. After they are born, they are exposed to the cold, they are exposed to strangers, they are exposed to the environment and everything else. They are exposed to too much. And the worst of all is they will be deprived of their mothers. Well, after a child is born, after I have a child, the first thing I do, I don't give a damn. I put the breast in your mouth, and that's it. The minute you come out of my belly, the first thing you're gonna have is a titty in your mouth, and we're not having a discussion about that. I hear about women who say that they cannot sleep at night after their babies. I've never had that experience. In the night, I sleep like a baby. My babies sleep like babies because the breast is always there to soothe them through. What else are you gonna have? You have not only that. Don't forget that I have a culture that is giving me specific foods to eat. So after I have a baby, I actually joke because I can actually furnish a whole village with milk. My breast, I have double D's. The breasts are huge with milk. But I remember after I went back to teaching, because after I had my son, I was a high school teacher. After I went back to teaching, I would be standing in front of my classroom, and it would be like, psh, no amount of pads would hold it, because I had so much milk. I have so much milk. So after that child is born, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, Tig Evans? Yes, most black women here don't even breastfeed. Yes, and that is a default. Do not expect those men to grow up to be fully when we are making them deficient in the womb and we are making them deficient post-birth experience. Like I said to you, sir, the post-birth experience is one of the most traumatizing experiences for children in the United States. So after these children are born in the United States, typically the mothers go back to work within 2-3 weeks. Oh my God, that's a crime. That's a crime against your child. What could be more important? What could be more important than the process of bonding? And this is where the nut of the matter is. Bonding. The process of sitting on your mother's bosoms, smelling her. The baby needs to smell you. The baby needs to smell. Like me, when I have children, all I have to do is pass by, and my kids already smell me. They'll be so cute babies. My children are usually born more than 9 pounds too. I usually have huge babies. But the minute that I walk by, my child smells me. It's like, they're doing it so adorable. I remember that. It's just breaking my heart right now. Oh, that is such a precious moment. I probably shouldn't even talk about that too much because it's bringing me to where I'm mushy. It's making me so soft right now just talking about it. Wow. Unbelievable. How soft I'm getting just talking about that moment. Unbelievable. Please, if you are tuned in to watch me live, don't forget to click like and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'm growing my channel. Hopefully, I can do more live more often. Excuse me. So, the process that we see, the process which becomes a handicap, and we don't realize it, is the process of bonding. That's where we go wrong. We go wrong, first of all, the way that we make these children deficient in the womb, the way that we take away the process of bonding between mother and child. Not only is this child supposed to be on your bosom, sucking, supposed to be with you, walking, everywhere you go, that child becomes your tail. That's why human animals do not have tails, because your children are your natural tail. Oh my God, I'm going to get hiccups. I hope I don't. Then I'm going to need a child to bring me some water. That's why you don't have a tail as an animal, as a human animal, because your children are the actual tail. Okay? So, we are talking about a crisis in manhood. And the crisis in manhood is not a new crisis. It's not a crisis that just perhaps chance happened. It's a crisis that we create. We create this crisis by the way that we make these children deficient from the womb and post-birth experience and onward. And I'm going to keep explaining this because I want, before I judge a mule, before I put too much on a mule, okay, I have to see how much weight it's carrying. Okay, because some of us still use mules to carry weight. So before I put too much weight on that mule, I have to see how much it's already carrying because I don't want to give it too much. I don't want to abuse that mule. So here we are in the nut of the discussion. After these children are born, most women that I see, they leave their children with strangers most of the time. They take them to daycares. Daycares now take them a week after they are born. Oh my God, shame on you people. What a crime. What a crime that nobody reports. What a crime that nobody's upset about. What a crime that you leave your child 1 week old to go to work. To go to work. For what? How much money could be worth more? Tig Evans says, thank you for participating in my live. This is like my first live where people are actually watching. I'm not going to lie. I don't have that much of an audience. I'm growing my network. Tig says, not only do black women here not breastfeed, they kill over 400,000 of their unborn babies each year. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm sure. You know what I always ask, Mr. Evans? I always ask about those unborn children and their souls. I'm always asking myself, do these unborn children, are they wandering souls around us? I always ask, the children who are aborted, do they have souls? And do those souls haunt the mothers? I ask. I've asked myself those questions. Moving on. Depriving a child, the process of bonding, is depriving that child of the most natural privilege of its life. So the fact that most of these children in the United States do not get to bond with the mothers after birth and the fathers after birth becomes a handicap later in life. And they are wondering, you're wondering what happened. Well, that's what happened. That's what happened. All right, that's what happened. That's the first big mishappening. From birth to post-birth, we drop the ball. Okay? So when you take a child, and you take that child and you go to work, first of all, most of these females, so I go to McDonald's sometimes in the morning, I go to Burger King sometimes I go to Wendy's in the afternoon, sometimes I go, like if I'm on the road, I'll go to any fast food I feel like going to. Okay, it doesn't mean that I have a regiment of fast food, but sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I enjoy Wendy's 4 for $4, so I'll go. Sometimes I want to taste Burger King's $1.49 10-piece chicken nuggets. Sometimes I want to have an ice cream from McDonald's with the nuts and everything. I'll go. Why not? But when I go, it's what I see, which pains me. When you go to McDonald's, you go to any of those low-rate fast food restaurants, you go to any of these second-rate fast food restaurants like Friendly's, Chili's, I call them second-rate fast food restaurants. That's what they are to me, fast food restaurants. It takes a good restaurant to impress me. I'm not impressed with eating out. I prefer to cook in my house. But I go. Sometimes I go. So when you go to these restaurants, what you see are a majority of poor women. Poor women working. Most of these fast food restaurants do not pay more than $10 an hour. They don't. Most of them don't. And I'm sure the minimum wage is less than $10 an hour. So you go to most of these first-rate fast food restaurants and you go to most of these second-rate fast food restaurants, and what do you see? You see women. women working, earning no more. Most of them don't earn no more than $10 an hour. So let's say you work for $10 an hour for 40 hours a week. That's $400 a week. And when you take the $400 a week and you multiply it by 52 weeks, most people don't work full 52 weeks. Okay? So I'm multiplying right now. I'm not using a calculator. I'm using my head. 4 fois 2, 8, 4 fois 5, 20. You have a matter of $20,000, $20,800. Okay? So a mother earns $20,800 a year. Okay? She leaves her child every day, and we're just going to take the first 10 years of her son's life. Matter of fact, we'll take the first 12 years of her son's life. For the first, well, let's take the 10 because it's easier for me to multiply by 10. So for the first 10 years of her son's life, okay, she would have made, because she makes $20,000 a year, for the first 10 years, she would have made $208,000. These women are leaving their children. They are missing out on the bonding process with their children. So, for the first 10 years of a child's life, the child does not know what it feels like to have a mother cater to him. The child does not know what it feels like to smell his mother and to recognize the scent of his mother anywhere in the world, anywhere in the room, anywhere whatsoever. For the first 10 years of this child's life, most of what it acquires are with connections with strangers, daycare workers, after-school daycare workers, and what do you call preschool workers? Okay, so for $208,000 for a moment of 10 years, a woman will sell her child to McDonald's. That's the job you had. Whatever job you had, you will sell it. Steve, how are ya? I'm doing super, and you? Tig Evans says, those abortion numbers aren't exact, but it's definitely over 25,000, over 250,000 each year. And sometimes up to 400,000. That's a lot of murder on the part of women who expect grace from Mother Nature. If you want Mother Nature to be graceful to you, you have to be graceful to Mother Nature. And the first act of being graceful to Mother Nature is to be graceful to your children. It works like a fist. I'm doing great, Steve Bobo. Thanks for saluting me. And thank you for joining my live. Don't forget to click like as you come in my live, please. I'm building my network. I want to grow a YouTube community because I'm finding out that common sense is lacking, even in men like Tommy Sotomayor. And don't forget that I have love for Tommy Sotomayor, but even with love, I cannot give him passes. He has to be held accountable. Okay, so even a man like Tommy Sotomayor, who may appear to have logic, but when you look deep, it's just a hurt boy, a lot of times screaming. Okay, and I'm going to go into why. So we are moving on now to the process of bonding, where a lot of these mothers, they do not create the time to bond with their sons. So when we have a crisis in manhood, the first crisis begins with this man and his mother. Steve Bobo says, I'm well. I like your insight into American issues. Very interesting when in English. Yeah, I had been catering to the Haitian community for a while because the Haitian community needs guidance. And a lot of the Haitians, they don't mind having a leader like me to help. And I know that a lot of the African Americans don't mind having a leader like me to help as well. Because what we have to do is understand that we need leadership with common sense and logic, not someone screaming, not a screaming male, okay? Because what we are going to find about the male animal is one of the most prevalent attributes of the male animal is greed. It's greed, okay? So let's move on. So the process of bonding is missing, without this process of bonding in this male child's life, that's when, I don't know if you ever see little Hispanic children. I love to see little Hispanic children because a lot of times the little boys, they do everything their mama do. Because you see that woman, she's spending time with her son. By the time her son is 5 years old, your son should be walking around, holding on to your legs, holding on to your tail, holding on to your dress. Okay? Your son should be holding on to your dress. I wanted to demonstrate what I mean, but then I realized I would have to stand up too much. But by the time your son is 4 or 5 years old, you should be the apple of their eyes because you had been bonding with your son. Your son should not have been going to any daycares. Your son should not have been going to any preschool. The first schooling should be around. Nowadays, people are making it crazy, but really naturally, it shouldn't be until 5, 6 years old that your child actually goes and meet the world. From the moment of birth to about 5 years old, that child is in your bosom. That child, me, I have to confess, y'all, I was breastfed over 2 years old. I was breastfed for over 2 years old. And I have to thank God because a lot of times those big, thick bitches, they think they can beat me up. And I end up kicking their ass, honey. I end up really becoming victorious because the breast milk I got, it gave my bones a certain amount of strength. Like, I don't work out. And look at me. Never have I worked out in my whole life. So the breastfeeding, it gives my bone a certain density. It gives my body a certain amount of strength that had I not been breastfed, these bitches would have got the best of me. They would have treated me like feather, blow me in the wind, you know what I mean? So when you're looking at those little, and I'm taking little Latino boys, look at, when you're looking at them because they've been with the mother, your child should not have been in contact with nobody else but families and close relations. And because at that moment, that child needs to grow a certain amount of security. That's where the self-esteem is. Like when I first came to America and I heard people talk about self-esteem, I was like, what the fuck is that? It's so much that I never knew. Racism, because all of those are made up factors. We humans, we can invent some ridiculous shit. That's our attributes as humans. And we as humans, we cannot trust our senses. Just because it tastes good doesn't mean you should eat it. Just because it tastes good to the sense, because the sense of the tongue, you cannot trust your senses. You should not trust your senses. Just because it looks good to the eyes doesn't mean it's good for the body. So the eye is another sense. You cannot trust all your senses. That's my point. All right? So in the moment of a child, from the moment of birth to the moment of 4 or 5 years old, that child should be in a secure environment in his mama's bosoms. So that's the security that we are finding that these men in the United States, they do not receive. Amen? Abracadabra. Let me see what you say here. Steve Bobo say, I see. Tig Evans says, ancient culture sciences says that the soul enters the body when the pineal gland is developed. Needs more study. Just saying that because you're wondering if those babies' soul are wandering here lost. When does the pineal gland develop after the process of fertilization? How soon after that is the baby developed? Please educate me. I mean, I studied these things going. I've done to Orange School. I've done pre-med. I've done a lot. I've done a lot of anatomy and physiology, but I don't remember. Some things I keep in the long term. Some things I keep in the short term bank, for the sake of survival, of course. Tigavin says, ha ha ha, my African mom breastfeed all 8 of us. I stayed on the breast the longest. I was over 2, also sister. It is wonderful. People who have not been breastfed, they do not understand. Like, this is what we used to do when I was little. If somebody's standing straight, what we would do, you see when you stand straight, there is this is the knee. This is the knee, and this is the back of the knee. So if you're standing straight, what we would do when I was little, we would come and we would go like this. We would go like this. And if your knee bent, that means you didn't get enough breast milk. We would play games like that as a child. Because in the society where I was growing, having your mother's milk made you superior. So if you're a sucker and your knees are crumbling under touch and you don't have strength to hold your body, how can you declare yourself superior to me? So superiority had nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with the process of a human being. Okay? You cannot call yourself superior to me if you can't look the sun in the eyes. That's another process. Okay? So Tig says the pineal gland is developed the same exact time as the sex of the child is determined. Wow, that's a lot of murders. My baby girl, when she was a little baby, she would say, Mommy. She would say, Mommy, I believe what you just said, because I just remembered stories that my baby girl used to tell me. She was very baby. My children speak quite early because I don't baby talk with babies. I mean, I treat them like adults with respect. Okay? I don't violate. I treat you with respect. I talk to you as an adult. So my daughter would say to me, my baby girl would say to me, Mommy, Mommy, oh my God, Mommy, she would say to me, before I came into your womb, oh my God, I had to travel a lot. And she said to me, I went into somebody else's womb, but it was too cold. And she says, I left. And she says, I was looking for the best womb to be in. And she's like, I went into somewhere other womb. And she would tell me stories like that. And it was just amazing stories about how she was traveling, looking for the best womb. And I said to her, well, what happened when you got in my womb? She said, well, I fell asleep. I was tired. I loved it. When she was little, she would tell me stories about her life before birth. And they were just hilarious. And when I talk about this, I turn mushy again, and I don't mean to. Incredible. I love those moments. And I think a woman who denies herself that bonding process with her child is crazy bitch. You're a crazy bitch. You cannot be a woman. So that means a lot of y'all. I do not apologize, by the way. If I say something, hey, I said it. All right. I believe that apology is for the weak. What I try to do is I try not to say things that I will have to apologize for. It doesn't mean that I never do. It just means that I try not to. Because the best way is to live life and saying the things that you really mean and not having to repeat them. So, yes, I have identified here the first step that really creates the present crisis that we have in manhood. The first step that creates this crisis in manhood are the ways we are raising children and the lack of bonding that these children are experiencing post-birth and pre-birth, in the womb and post-birth. Okay? So when a man doesn't have that bonding with a mother in the first few years of birth, that man will grow to be a different man. He will have insecurities that you will never know because he will never confess to them. But any man who is watching me now, you can say, yes, I understand what you're saying because I am suffering from these insecurities. And I would have never known had you not mentioned it, that those insecurities stem from my lack of bonding with mama when I was just a baby, from the birth to the 5 years old and so on. The bonding doesn't just stop at 5 years old and stuff, it continues. There is no reason for a woman to go and sell her child for $208,000. If I offered that woman $208,000, and I said to her, sell me your child, she would cuss me out. She would say, hell no, I ain't selling you my child. Who the fuck you think I'm going to sell you my child? She would cuss me the fuck out. But she goes to Walmart and she sells her child for a salary of $208,000. Over a period of 10 years, if you have not been home, if you have been going to work from morning to afternoon, you have not been the type of mother you should have been. I hate feminists and the message and the doctrine that they propagate. It's a fucked up way to be. It's a fucked up doctrine to follow. Okay, because you cannot, women and men, we are not the same. 5 fingers are never the same lengths. So how can we be the same? How can people receive same treatments? 5 fingers are never the same length. So how could we humans? So it's just logical. You see how logical it is for me to make you see the truth? Are 5 fingers ever the same length? The human body, if you look at life, and if you look at the human body, you will see it as a replication of life. Life replicates the human body, which is what I mean. Life replicates the human body. What goes up must come down. Input equals output. All of those are equivalent to life flow, to life's flow. So, that woman abandons a child and goes to work. And then a lot of these women, when you talk to them, they say, I have to go to work. If I don't go to work, what do I eat? What do I feed the child? What do I pay my house with? You know what? None of that matters. None of that matters. The minute you have a child, your job is to stay home and bond with that child. You have no other job. Either you have that child or you become a killer and admit that you're a killer of that child. If you're having abortions left and right, you're a killer of children. You're a killer of fetus. What is the plural for fetus? Fidi? I took Latin when I was little because I had a multi-million-dollar education as a youth, prep school education. Yeah, I took Latin. So what I would say that would be the next. That would be the most logical fetus plural according to the rules of Latin grammar. It would become like fidi, or is it fetuses? I'm not sure. But if you're in the habit of killing babies, you're a killer of fetuses or fidi. I don't know what the plural for that is. In the process of not bonding with children, and we are talking about the males, we are finding out that these males, they are growing up with a lack of sensitivity. So the process of bonding with your mama, because a lot of times you see little Hispanic children, you would probably think they're gay. They're not gay. They're not gay. These are going to be the most macho males in the neighborhood, because by the time they become 15, 16, honey, they have that confidence. And that confidence came from the bonding with mama. And that confidence is sexy. It's appealing. Okay? It's good. It's a good feeling when a man is sure of himself. When the blood that flows through his body bears no anxiety and no stress. When a man is unsure of himself, he has anxiety. When a man is unsure of himself, he is stressed and he's always with anxiety. He's quick to scream. He's quick to blow up. He's quick to develop other habits or other things that are not necessarily manly. Because out of insecurity, he will branch, he will overreach into territories that will shake him and that may even break him. Tig Evans says, okay, I read that already, Tig Evans. Oh, I read that already. Cool. Thank you for participating, by the way. Thank you so much. Because this is actually my first live where I have people watching. I believe this is my third live. And it's the first one where someone... Matter of fact, in the other ones, there were a few people watching. But this is the most 4 people I've had watching at one time. Let's continue with my discussion tonight. Is the crisis. There is a crisis in masculinity. There's a crisis in manhood. And the person who inspired me to speak about this tonight is Tommy Sotomayor. And this is why Tommy Sotomayor inspired me to do this live. Yesterday morning, I called Tommy Sotomayor's live. And I wanted to share with him because he said he was ready to hear from people who didn't necessarily share the same opinion as him, but who would bear logic. I bear logic 100% of the time, all the time. Logic never leaves me. So I called him and I said to him, because Tommy Sotomayor is a person, his business is really, he says he cares about the black women, and I believe him, and his business is really reporting wretched acts from black women, and really sometimes he criticizes and he says he criticizes with the intent of helping, teaching, and correcting. I don't have any reason to doubt his motives. That's not why I'm here. I'm not here to bash anybody. So when I spoke to Tommy Sotomayor, I said to him, you speak about men, and then a lot of times Tommy Sotomayor would say, well, the reasons why these men act that way is because of the bitch who raised them. And I beg to differ. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just differing in opinion at that moment. And I said to Tommy Sotomayor, you say that all the time, but you say you are different, but you yourself, you also act like a woman a lot of times. Because even when Tommy Sotomayor is complaining and whining, oh, these people are making videos about me, but you see he enjoys it. You can see he enjoys the popularity. You can see that he enjoys the notoriety. You can see that he enjoys being famous and infamous at the same time. You can see that. But then at the same time, he goes and complains about it. And I said to him, when you do that, you are acting like an undercover whore. Have you guys ever met an undercover whore? And the undercover whores will act like they're not whores. They will even act like they don't enjoy sex. At that moment, Tommy Sotomayor accused me of disrespecting him and hung up on me. At that moment, again, he acted like a little bitch. He forgot that I was comparing his behavior to that of an undercover whore. No insults was made. At that moment, he became highly emotional. And he began to seek more attention. He began to use me to get more sympathy from others. Because at that moment, I was the person who insulted him, and everybody was supposed to feel sorry for him. At that moment, he became a little bitch. Do you understand where I'm coming from? If you understand, please let me know. Tig Evans says, that's crazy because you're an amazing woman and we need you very badly here. Tig Evans says, Tommy's a white woman, basically. He may be a white woman because the way he began to act after that was totally illogical. No logic at all. No common sense at all. Because it was just the reaction of an attention-seeking undercover whore. An undercover whore never admits she's a whore. She never admits she enjoys the sex to begin with. But Tommy's enjoying all this attention and then complains about it and so on and so on. Whether these people are making negative videos, you enjoy it all because it's all notoriety for you. Because in your field, there's no such thing as negative publicity. Right? There's no such thing as bad publicity, I mean. And I know you're a believer in that doctrine. So I know. At that moment, you begin to act like an undercover whore. And you begin to act like a little bitch when you hung up on me. You don't hang up on a woman who's speaking to you and has not disrespected you. And even if I called you directly an undercover whore, which I just did about a few seconds ago, even if I did that, at that moment, because you are in the habit, because your business is the business of insulting women, what's the matter if a woman throws one at you? You can't handle it, Tommy. You can't handle the truth, Tommy Sotomayor. What's the matter, darling? You can't. And that's what I mean when I compare Tommy to an undercover whore. An undercover whore will never admit she's enjoying the sex. She will never admit she's a whore to begin with. Okay? She will never. You will never see that from her. So, do you reflect the woman who raised you in that instance? Was your mother an undercover whore? I cannot go into her. That would be disrespectful. But when you, Tommy, when you do your reportage and you speak on ratchet bitches, you go into their mothers, you go into their fathers, you go into all of their anatomy. But you can't take one truth about you. You can't take one logical truth about you. One, you can't take it. Like, that's male hypocrisy. Manhood is not supposed to bear no hypocrisy. when I first began to do this life, the first thing I did is I established a point of reference. The point of reference is the Haitian culture, because that's your best bet right now. That's the culture of the original people of the world that is intact. When you go to West Africa, that culture is not intact. Those West Africans, they are not the original West Africans. My ancestors are the original West Africans. Those West Africans that you see right now, those are the people that came after me. A lot of times when they see me in the streets, they stop me because I have the royal flow. I have the royal look. This is it. This is the royal look. Okay? So the Haitian culture is your best bet right now if you want to find a point of reference for the original people of the world. We are it. Okay? So when you look at the Haitian culture of manhood, hypocrisy, caprice. Tommy is very capricious. Those kind of capricious behaviors do not exist in the definition of manhood in our point of reference, which is the Haitian culture. In the Haitian culture, and I'm going back to our point of reference, manhood is clear. It's what is that word that people use? There is no opacity in manhood in the Haitian culture. But now, in the 21st century, we are seeing that men, they are acting irrational. They are acting hysterically. And they are acting out of hand. They are out of pocket. They are out of body. But you cannot tell them. You cannot correct them. You cannot fix them. Why not? Why can't I correct you, Tommy Sotomayor, when you feel your job is to correct black women? Well, my job is to correct black men, and I'm correcting you. I would love to see Tommy evolve from an undercover whore. And believe me when I tell you, Tommy represents American manhood. He does. And I respect that. But I would love to see Tommy evolve from the state of undercover whore to full-blown manhood. Tommy Sotomayor, when I called Tommy Sotomayor on the phone, when I called his live, he acted as if he was not aware that I was on the live waiting. That's number one. Number two, he acted as if he had never heard of me before. Because prior to that, I had mailed Tommy Sotomayor in his website. I had mailed him prior to that, and I had commented on his website. So he came into contact with me before. But because he's a hypocritical, his manhood is hypocritical. He can't help it. That's the United States manhood. That's what he represents. Like the other gentleman says here, the United States manhood is equivalent to a white woman's state of being and state of mind. It brings hypocrisy. It bears lies that we dare not justify. So at that moment, the hypocrisy Tommy disclosed and displayed was too much for me. And then he set the trap where he said to his administrators, don't block me in the chat room, because at that moment he's expecting me. He hung up on me to get a reaction out of me because he's expecting me to go toe-to-toe with him like a bitch. I'm not a bitch. I would never do that for you. I do not like arguing with people. I'd rather fight somebody before I argue with you. Arguing takes so much energy. It is so useless. At that moment, he's setting the trap for me to jump in the chat room because he hung up on me, and for me to feel offended by the fact that he hung up on me, and for me to be overcome with emotional and irrational behaviors where I'm saying, why the fuck did you hang up on here? Nigga, please. Pass the pickles. That's not my culture. I'm not going to step out of my culture to accommodate you as a misguided male. I won't do that. Thank you so much. I have a new watcher here, Gods versus Sheep. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, please. He says, you're very good at explaining things and staying on topic. Have you taken public speaking classes or something? Sir, I am a former licensed public school teacher, and also I have taught at the university level. I am also an author, I'm a lecturer, okay, and I'm a motivational speaker. So explaining, I have been a teacher since officially a teacher since I was 3 years old. When I used to travel to the mountains, I would bring books and pencils so I could teach men in the mountains how to read. It was men I was teaching. In return, those men, they would crop for me. They would leave me fresh corn, fresh avocado, fresh apricot, fresh mangoes, fresh everything, and they would go fish for me in the rivers. They would treat me as I am royal and loyal. So yes, I've been doing this for a very long time. Thank you, sir. Thank you for saying that. That's kind of you. Tig Evans says, we're trying to copy the gay European culture. Yes, right now it's a matter of shifting our reference to another culture. We are copying another culture. And that's why I'm using the Haitian culture as a reference. Because if you don't have a reference from the original people of the world, how can you differentiate sheep from gods? Basically what his name is. How can you differentiate? So we are moving on to what happened between me and Tommy Sotomayor. At that moment, Tommy Sotomayor expected me to come on the live, to come in the chat, and to go irie, and to lose my composure. And for him, then he would say, well, that's why I don't fuck with black women. And that's why we have a problem with black women. Tommy, I love you. I know that we have a problem with black women, but there is also there are also problems with black men, and you reflect a lot of it. But you refuse to understand that you reflect a lot of it. Right now, like I said to you, you act as an undercover whore, and the way that you talk so much. And, you know, I have to understand why you talk so much, because you have taken it upon yourself to educate women. So I will tolerate that. I will tolerate the verbosity. I will tolerate the diarrhea of the mouth. I will tolerate it because I can see that your function is serving for goodness. So I will tolerate it, whereas I won't tolerate it from another male like Sanitaire, because I can see how his function is more destructive than constructive. So yes, Tommy, I will tolerate you, but I'm telling you, darling, you act like an undercover whore. You are very hypocritical. Okay, and you admit of your insecurities, and I'm not sure if your insecurities surface as a result of the lack of bonding that you experience in the womb, post-birth, or while growing up, and while becoming an adult, or while growing up into a man. I'm not sure at which step the insecurities became an issue for you. Moving along, away from Tommy, because that's who inspired me to do this. Matter of fact, Tommy Sotomayor has inspired me to do more live about black men. So for that, I must give him credit, okay? So don't think when I speak about somebody I love everyone about whom I speak. So for me to speak about somebody, it has to be out of love to begin with. I cannot allow myself to bash anyone or to diminish anyone or to take anyone down, okay? So we are talking in all honesty, and that's where we are having a crisis in manhood. Gods versus Sheep asked me. He says, does Haiti also have the original religion? I'm so happy you asked me that, because I have an answer for you. The original people of the world, we don't have religions. Voodoo is not a religion. We have greedy Haitians who petitioned to make voodoo a religion because they wanted title. They wanted to sit at the table with deficient white males and kiki. They wanted rights along that side. So these Haitian males, they petitioned to make voodoo a religion, but voodoo is not a religion. All of us, real Haitians who are not governed by greed and hatred and all that crap, rubbish, we understand that voodoo is, we know, because our ancestors never told us about voodoo as a religion. Voodoo is the original way of life for the original people of the world. I call them OPP, original people of the world. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with OPP? Yeah. I'm down with OPP. Yeah. So that's us, the original people of the world. Yes, gods versus sheep. Haiti has the way of life for the original people of the world. The original people of the world, we have the original interaction with God. God said, hey, we say, hey. So can nobody else shift our platform to make us become religion people? Religion is a man-made dichotomy. It's not something that I even endorse. Religion is the most divisive force on this earth. Religion breaks parents, children, families, nations. Wow, religion breaks love apart. So we, the original people of the world, we the Haitians, we don't have religion. Voodoo is our way of life. It's not a religion. Voodoo will teach us how to deal with you if you get out of hand. Voodoo will teach us how to protect. So right now, as we are seeing that Haiti's going under, but that only came as a result of major attacks on voodoo. So for that to happen, there had been a movement, over 50 years of a movement of Christianity in Haiti, where black Americans, other Americans, first of all, the first thing that happened under President Monroe, somebody mentioned that to me as well, is there was, when African Americans were forced to go back to Liberia, a lot came to Haiti, and they came with the Jesus factor. So in continuation to that, over the past 50 years, there's been, right now, the Mormons just got into Haiti. And we know the Mormons ain't fucking around because they just got there because they want to fuck little girls and they want to fuck little boys. We ain't going to lie about them. So right now, the Mormons just got to Haiti. The Jehovah's Witnesses have been there for years. The Seventh-day Adventists. So because of the infiltration of this religion, it has weakened Haiti's defense system, because Haiti's defense system is rooted in our way of life, which is voodoo, and our way of life is unity, makes strength. And like, in Haiti, we organize as a fist. You see how this fist organized? That's how we organize in Haiti. Unity makes strength. So because of the infiltration of these religions, it has been attacking our way of lives. Yeah. It's really crazy what's happening in Haiti, because we the people who are right there in the Western Hemisphere, right there next to Haiti, and our flight away, we act like we cannot see what's happening. God versus Sheep says, could you tell me how to use voodoo to help me succeed in life in America? No. I couldn't. Like, I'm going to give you an example, right? When you look at people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, how do you think they become so successful? They had like, voodoo is not a religion, but you had people who turned voodoo into a religion, okay? So those people who turned voodoo into religion, they did it so they can become in service to the West, so they can engage in servitude to the West. So when you're looking at a couple like Bill and Hillary Clinton, they had a voodoo priest on dial, on the books, all the time, around the clock. When you look at Hollywood, most of the major Hollywood people, they have voodoo priests right there. The people who call themselves, they have them right there. When you look at a production like Games of Thrones, you can see all the voodoo they put in there, all our way of lives. Those are not the ways of lives of the Europeans. This is fabricated. Watching Games of Thrones, and this guy is talking about, oh, I put some onions in it. Bitch, you never knew about onions at the time. You did not even know about salt, motherfucker. Now you're talking like you knew onions. Nigga, please. Nigga, please. Pastor Pickles, you don't know shit about no onions. But when you're watching the Game of Thrones, if you're not a person who is accurate historically, you would think those were the attributes of the Europeans. But a lot of the attributes, a lot of the magic that you are seeing in the Game of Thrones, those are the magic they learned from the Haitians who called themselves voodoo priests and sold out our way of life to the Europeans. They did. Because the Europeans did not have a way of life. They took it from us. And it was those Haitians who compromised and gave it to them. God versus Sheep says, so I need to know someone who uses voodoo. I can't simply learn it myself. Yes, you can learn it yourself. Voodoo is a way of life. Voodoo is what establishes harmony between human and human, Mother Nature, human, and all the other dimensions. Okay? Because there are so many dimensions that we're not aware of, but we in the Haitian culture, in the voodoo way of life, we exist multidimensionally. As human animals, we exist in many different dimensions. So for me, as a Haitian woman who lives in that, who practices, who is in my original people of the world way of life, going to sleep and going to sleep is not the same for everybody else. Like, I'm the kind of person where a lot of times I'll wake up 2 o'clock in the morning so I can have another meal, because I just traveled so much. In my sleep, I'm tired. I have to eat. Otherwise, I get really, really skinny when I don't eat in the middle of the night. I don't know why. I lose weight. I become like 120 pounds. I look really skinny when I'm 120 pounds. When I'm 115 pounds, I look bone skinny. For me to look like I look, I have to be at least 135, 140 pounds. But when people look at me, you would think I'm 110 pounds because I have muscle mass, like I say, and I keep very little air in my body and very little excess water. So yes, so that's the best comparison I could give you, God versus sheep. You would need somebody to help you focus, to learn it by yourself, to help you, because voodoo, like, okay, let me explain to you what that way of life is. Because to be a magical human is in your bloodline. When you look at the original people of the world, the Haitians, you're going to find that we carry magic in our bloodline. It's not something that you can go buy. Like, right now, you see the Europeans, they are trying so hard to have ownership on magic. But when you look at the Europeans' way of life, their tribal lineage, they had things like that, but theirs was more like on the side of witchcraft, okay? Now, as the original people of the world, the Haitian people, we carry magic in our bloodlines. So let me explain it to you very simple. We come from the, I don't know if I should even tell you that much. Not sure. Not sure if I should even say what I'm about to say. Let me think. If I should even say that much. Let me say this. Magic is a bloodline issue. Just like you see some people have sickle cell in their bloodline, we carry magic in our bloodline. It's a lineage factor. So meaning, for you to have voodoo, for you to have that way of life, you have to have ancestors. Okay. So if your ancestors, let's say your mother, your father will become your ancestors in a few years, or in many, many years to come. I wish for you. I pray for that. So let me explain that to you very simply, right? Very simply speaking, if your ancestors, while they were living, they weren't shit, then they will leave you no spiritual legacy when they're dead. I apologize. I had a phone call come in that disrupted the live. I apologize. Like I was saying, the best example I can give you, gods versus sheep, is this following example. If your ancestors, while they were alive, they weren't shit, you will have no spiritual legacy to go to practice that way of life. For voodoo as a way of life to work for you. Okay, let me give you an example of one of my ancestors. I have my great uncle. We used to call him Tikok, Little Wooster, because he used to fight everybody and win. And he was short, so they call him Little Wooster, because he was no joke. He used to whoop ass. But they also called him Little Wooster because he attained a certain level of spiritual maturity. Most of us right now living in this earth, we are not achieving. Most of us living on this earth, we are not achieving spiritual maturity. So, if while your ancestors were alive, they did not achieve any kind of spiritual maturity, or they did not reach any type of level of spirituality where they transcended that spirituality to manifest, when they are dead, they're going to be worthless to you. They ain't going to be shit. So if your ancestors weren't shit spiritually while they were living, if they didn't have that spiritual weight, when they are dead, it still means they ain't shit. They can't serve as your army. Voodoo is passed down. It's ancestral lineage, ancestral legacies. If your ancestors are not working actively, like the original people of the world, that's why we the Haitian, as the original people of the world, it works because we can go back to the original men. We can go back to the original movement as our ancestors, and they will still come and intercede in our favor on this earth. That's why breaking apart voodoo and making voodoo become a religion was the best way to deny it, was the best way to get rid of it as a defense system in the Haitian culture. The first thing they did is they collaborated with bullshit Haitians and they turned voodoo into a religion. That was the first bullshit they did. Do you understand what I mean, God versus sheep? If in that moment of your life right now, in that moment of your life right now, if you're not manifesting to the, and it's pure physics at that moment, okay? If the atom that you are is not, you see how my finger is going like that? And in a moment, if my fingers keep going like that, it will become invisible. You won't be able to see it. If it gets faster, it will blend with the atmosphere. You won't see it. All of those aspects of voodoo are truly rooted in metaphysics. Voodoo is not a religion. It's a way of life. Metaphysics makes sense. Life makes sense. And it's logic, common sense. So let me finish giving you the example of my great-uncle, Tikok. So in that moment, when my great-uncle, because when he was alive, he was a spiritual powerhouse, honey. He could disappear. He could do a whole lot of shit. Not only that, my great-uncle also belonged to secret societies. How do I know he belonged to secret societies? Because that's the tradition. I cannot doubt he belonged. A man of his spiritual caliber, of course he belongs to secret societies. It's not because he confesses it or because anybody knows, but because I know the way of life for my culture and for people like him. Like me, myself, I have rights, even though I don't belong to secret societies, but I have blood rights in many different secret societies that if I wanted to belong, they will be open to me. They will be open to have me. Because those secret societies, you don't just join because you want to be in a sorority or fraternity or you want to be a Mason. It's only by blood rights. All right? So when my uncle passed away, it was over 20 years ago. My great-uncle, he was a great-uncle. I went to Haiti 15, 17 years ago. When I got to Haiti, about 18 years ago, I went to Haiti. I went to my ancestral home that I love and adore. I never not go. So when I got to my ancestral home, and in my ancestral home, there's a lot of fruits, a lot of trees around. I met a boy in the yard. The boy was peeling an apricot. Ever since I was little, my great-uncle, I would always ask him to get me apricots. When I got to my ancestral home, I saw this very handsome boy sitting in the yard, because there was nobody in my home. I'm not there. So when I got there, there was this boy that I'd never seen before, because my ancestral home, we also had a school. For over 20 years, we had a school there to teach the areas. That was our way of giving back to the communities there. We have a school. We had a school. After the earthquake, the school went under. So at that moment, I walk into my yard. There is a boy, a very beautiful black-skinned boy, sitting there with a knife. Because all the young boys at that age in my country, they all have knives. They all have weapons. That's the way of life of my country. You see, that's another thing that I will go into when I continue to discuss the crisis in manhood, is when you look at young boys in Haiti, like in the countryside, young boys, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, he better have his knife, he better have his machete, he better have a horse, or if not a horse, a goat. Like, he has to have possession. Like in my country, in the way of life of the Haitian lifestyle, when a boy is like 3, 4, 5 years old, you begin to give him things so he can have possession. He needs wealth. He can't be a broke 3-year-old, 4-year-old. Like if he's 3-year-old, you can give him chickens. That means he owns something. You have to engage him in the process of ownership. Because for a lot of men in the United States, owning something is a bitch. They never had the feeling of owning anything. And when that man finally gets a car, he acts like his name is Wamede, King Mede. He acts like nobody's his name. Let me read what's going on here. Hold on. Tick Evans says, I don't even like using the word voodoo. I just prefer to living in reality with God. Well, you cannot be ashamed of who you are. Voodoo, V-O-D-O-U, that's the word. And embrace who you are. You can call it, there can be 10 different words. Whatever they are, as long as they are you, never not like what it is. It is what it is, and we accept life for what it is so that we can manifest in our full essence. And that's what I'm talking to you about, God versus sheep. It's the way we manifest in our living that's going to tell you what you're going to be after you die. Because if you're a lightweight fucker, just taking it up, when you die, you're going to be that same lightweight fucker. You ain't going to change. So how can you be part of somebody's spiritual legacy if you don't have the spiritual strength in your living? That's how the spiritual powerhouse is built. I'm going to finish telling the story. Let me read what this man says. Tick Evans says, Europeans can't connect with God. Mostly they aren't right at all. So I agree with you, but when you look at now the Haitians are doing it and the Africans did it, they allowed the Europeans to suck the God in them. And that's how the Europeans, if he ever had a connection with God, it was through the African-American experience. And it sucked it. It just sucked it dry. Let's continue. Please, if you join me, do like my live and subscribe. Okay, God versus Sheep says, thank you. Last question on Tommy's show, you said Haitians were black. I didn't say that. I said when you're speaking in America and you say, and because in America, when people are speaking, they say black people. You're not talking about us Haitians when you're making the generalizations of black people. You're talking about African Americans. Because when you say black people, that's whom you're referring to. You're not referring to the other blacks. Because when you're in America, everybody assumes all blacks are the same. So when they say black people, they want to include me. You can include me in your generalization of black people in America. I'm Haitian. I have a different culture than that black people culture in America. So that's what I meant, dear. I think I saw you say that. That was a very bad assumption. Africans also don't consider themselves black. Is there something spiritually wrong with black people? No, it's not that they don't consider themselves black. It's the way that African Americans have taken ownership of blackness and have been ruining, destroying blackness in the United States. So what people outside of this country, black people outside of this country, do not consider race a factor for identification. We don't. We don't speak of ourselves like, oh, I'm black. No, we don't. That's not the like the fact that African Americans in this country, they are using skin color as a primary mode of identification is totally wrong. That's going to be part of what some of my points when I talk about crisis in manhood. That's another reason why there is a crisis in manhood. Okay, because the first major mistake was to use race as a method of identification, and then now we are using gender. We're fucked. We'll fuck. Okay, so I was reading this. So yes, other blacks, we don't use blackness as a method of identification. So when you're in the United States and they're talking about black people, you ain't talking about me, bitch. You ain't talking about me. Because for all the wretched shit that you put on that dossier, for all the shit that's in that file, that's a deep file. The file of the black people, I don't fall into that. I don't need to hold on to racism to give me value. Racism is a phantom. If you don't like somebody, don't be around them. If you don't like white people, don't go to their schools. If you don't like white people, don't go to their stores. If you don't like white people, stop going to their bloody restaurants. But don't turn around and ask me to be engaged in a racist game when you're the one who went to this guy's restaurant. Why do you need to go to his restaurant? And then when he says, get the fuck out, black nigger, you like, oh, it's racism. It's not racism. You were not in the right place. You should never be somewhere where you're not wanted. You should never go eat in your enemy's house. You should never allow your children to go learn from your... Those are just logical things that you're breaking the laws of logic and you're expecting people to go on a racist hunt. Racism is a business that the black people and the white niggers, they have together. It's their business. Don't you see it? So, let me read what Pierre Charles, thank you for joining me. This is the first live that I'm doing at this time. This is my third YouTube live, and this is the first live where I've ever had 7 people watching me. Incredible. I feel like I have a whole 2,000 Tommy Sotomayor watching me. God versus sheep, you were there yesterday when I was talking to Tommy Sotomayor. This is what I was saying. I feel like Tommy Sotomayor was being a hypocrite to me, because if Tommy Sotomayor takes time to help out black women by criticizing them and pointing out things, I'm right now, I'm going to take time right now to help out black men, and not just to criticize, but to tell them how great they are as well, because I love me, black males, black men. But at the same time, Tommy Sotomayor acts like an undercover whore, because when you look at the behaviors of an undercover whore, she will tell you she doesn't like sex. Just the same way, Tommy doesn't like when you make videos about him. He doesn't like when people talk about him, talk shit about him. But it's the talk shit about him. He knows that no, there's no such thing as negative, as bad publicity. He welcomes it, but then in front of us, he complains about it. He whines about it. That's just too much for me. Too much whining from a man. Too much complaining from a man about something that is serving him good. That's the actions of an undercover whore. Undercover whores, they will even act like they don't like sex. And they will complain about it, okay? And then not only that, he's highly hypocritical. Highly hypocritical. Let me read what this man says. Pierre Charles says, I understand well, since you said that our secrets were handed over to our enemies by traitors from our ranks. Under that condition, shouldn't it make sense that we reorganize voodoo? Yes! Yes! That's oh, I could kiss you right now. That's exactly what it makes sense to do. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Because don't forget that there was a certain plan. There was at one point too, when it came to voodoo, we had to infiltrate the Catholic pantheons. You know what I mean? We had to infiltrate them to camouflage. Voodoo is a way of life, because through voodoo, as a way of life, you will understand the functions of the gods. And you will understand the function of the supreme being, who is God. You will understand, because we had the original contact with God. We were there when God said, let there be light. We are the original people of the world. So can nobody else tell us about God? Our ancestors already did great to tell us about God. Tick Evans says Europeans are vampires. They can only suck blood, kill, and copy and self-destruct. This is what their history shows. Absolutely correct. And if we know that Europeans are vampires, why are we still allowing them to suck on us? So when you look at that, the United Stadian lifestyle, and when people are saying black people do this, like I have this girl on YouTube that I absolutely love. I think she's called Lexi. I discovered her like 3 weeks ago. I discovered this actor. Her name is Lexi. She's an older woman, and she does skits. She does skits where she does like churches, and she black people after winning the lottery, and she will say black people at the beauty salon. So she has all these titles, but when she's saying that and she's titling them black people, she's not talking about Haitians. She's talking about United Stadian blacks, African Americans. That's what I meant, Chick Evans. There's a difference. Black people are not the same all over. It's all about the bloodline. It has nothing to do with the blackness. It's the bloodline, my dear. Okay. God versus sheep says, I see what you're saying, it makes sense. God versus sheep says again, do they ask now, do the Haitians make distinctions between masculine energy and feminine energy in Haiti, or is everyone treated the same? I started discussing that, and I'm going to go deep into that. I'm not going to be able to finish this tonight, so what I will do is I will continue this on tomorrow. I will continue this tomorrow night. And I think that I may even be doing lives like every night, 11:30, 12. I may even be coming on YouTube every night from now on to share with males and to inspire males to really get in touch with their masculinity. Hell yeah. There is a difference between femininity and masculinity. Look at those 5 fingers. Are they all the same length? Even 5 fingers are not the same length. How can we humans, we all be the same? Of course there is a difference between feminine and masculine energy. And hell yeah. We take time to make the distinction. Very much so. Hell yeah, we do. Hell yeah. And that's why I'm doing the live, because we have a point of reference. Haitian culture is your best luck right now to get out of this chaos. Because this is the original culture of the world, the culture of the original people of the world. This is we OPP right here. All right? God versus Sheep says, people cannot be neither black or white, nor white. You can either be Negro or Caucasian. Only the spirits can be either black or white. In voodoo, white is Rada and black is Petro. Oh, Agoye. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you for joining, Agoye. There is a new person here. Agoye says, he's talking to you, God versus Sheep. He says, people cannot be neither black nor white. You can either be Negro or Caucasian. Only the spirits can be either black or white. In Vodou, white is Rada and black is Petro. I would venture to say we are all Negroes. From the Negro, the Caucasian was birth. I'm asking all of you who are stopping by to like my live. Don't forget to like my live. Lahini Live. My name is Lahini. I am a mother. Everything's like not everything like in physical sense or in materialistic sense, but I'm everything in sort of relations. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a auntie. I'm a godmother. I fulfill my functions. I never neglect my functions in society. I never back away from my functions as well. Tonight, I began a discussion on a crisis in manhood. I will log back on tomorrow. I'm not going to stop the live right now, but I'm telling all who is watching, because we are not going to have time to finish discussing this tonight. God versus Ship say, I subbed. I'll be watching. Take care. Likewise, I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you so much for stopping by. Agoye says, the Haitian voice, maybe you have not watched Tommy long enough. Tommy only criticizes his critics when they make multiple threats on his life or put his family information on YouTube. I have not said anything wrong about Tommy so far. And like I said before, I love Tommy because for me to even speak about somebody, I have to love you. Like me, I come from a culture of logic and common sense. If you don't like somebody, don't try to change that person. So like my grandfather will call you, like my grandfather is a wise man, and he will say to you, if you don't want that woman, if you don't love that woman, don't try to change her. Only change her if you want to keep her. You know what I mean? So when I speak about Tommy, I speak about Tommy in the same way that if he sees a wretched black woman acting out, he's going to speak to help. And I'm only speaking about Tommy to help Tommy. And I would love if Tommy would drop the undercover whore attitude. And I would love if he would stop being hypocritical. And those are just remarks I make about him. Because evidence of that reflects in the manifestations of his behaviors, that's what he acts like. Okay, and I'm sure that many of you, after you get to know me, you'll probably have ways that you would prefer me to act like, and you probably have corrections for me for my betterment. It comes with the territory, and I have not watched Tommy long enough. I have not. I confess, Agoye, I have not. But I do admit that I love him. I really do, and I would love it if Tommy could find a woman to just love him and nurture him. I would love, like me. I don't have hate in my heart. When I hate something or somebody, and that's why I'm telling you about the racism that is dividing us, that Steve Bobo says, I'll say good night, bye. Bye-bye, Steve. Bonsoir. Like, the racism that is dividing us is a phantom. Because if you truly hate somebody, if you truly dislike somebody, you won't be around them, you won't speak about them, you will not try to help them in any way, shape, or form. So, yes, I absolutely love this guy. I think he's brave, but he's representing United Stadian manhood. All that screaming and all of that, that's not manhood. We don't see that in the Haitian manhood. We don't see those type of behaviors. So like I said, Tommy Sotomayor is one of our best reflection of a United Stadian manhood because it's a fleeting factor. Manhood in the United States is fleeting. So I'm glad that he's representing that. I'm glad for that. I actually like Tommy. Agoye says, but the first proof of love is respect, and the word undercover whore is not a sign of love. You see, you just lost logic. And that's why I'm going to be doing live at night. Because a lot of you males, you lose logic so easily. Because in a lot of your male minds, you think females are under you somewhere or subservient to you somewhere. When Tommy recognizes wretched behavior, he doesn't cover it. He doesn't paint it other names. He calls it by its name. If I recognize an undercover whore behavior, I'm not going to paint it. I'm going to call it by its name. That's the name it is. If he wants to consider it an insult, he's not my God. In my country, women are not limited because we are women. Humans in my country are limited because we are not the same. There's a difference when somebody is limiting you because you're a woman. Because all humans have limitations. As a woman who is 5'3", I cannot reach this china here by my house. I can't reach that. I can't reach that top part of my china just like that. Because I have my limitation, which is my height at the moment. So because I call it by its name, I'm disrespectful? Get out of here. That's not common sense. That's not logic. And that's where he dropped the ball for me last night and hangs up on me. And then not only does he hang up on me, he sets a trap for me. Because he says to his administrators, don't block me in the chat. Because at that moment, he expects me to get on the chat. I don't do that. If I'm saying something, I'm going to say it. And I'm going to move on. If I'm teaching something, I'm going to teach it. I'm going to stay to the topic and I'm going to move on. But I'm not going to go after you hang up on me, first of all. After you hang up on me, you disrespected me. All I did was I did for you what you've been doing for everybody else. Shouldn't your kindness be reciprocated? You spend your whole life teaching everybody else, and suddenly there comes a woman who teaches you a little bit about yourself. He acts like an undercover whore. First of all, undercover whores act like they don't like sex. He acts like he doesn't like the attention. He acts like he doesn't, because in his world, there's no such thing as negative publicity, as bad publicity. Negative positive is still his publicity. He acts like he doesn't like it. That's the first qualification of an undercover whore. They act like they don't like sex, undercover whore. And they also act like they're not sexually active. Okay, so that was not disrespectful. That was making a comparison to help him. And at the moment, he got emotional. He got really bitch-like emotional. Not only did he get bitch-like emotional, he got valley girl emotional because he wanted to set me up for me to go into a back. I wouldn't do that with a valley girl. If I have a problem with a woman my size, I'll knock you out. God give me the opportunity, it's going to happen. I look up and down, there are no witnesses, baby, you're going down because you're my size in that moment. And I'm not going to go back and forth with you. That's not the nature of womanhood where I come from. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you go blah, 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 blah. And for men, it's even more strict. It's even more restricted. Okay? So, do you understand, Agoye? Okay? The first proof of love is respect, but respect doesn't mean adoration. Respect doesn't mean that we can teach you at the moment or that you're untouchable. I don't adore humans. I do not worship fake gods. I do not worship idols. Agoye, you are so funny. You know what? I take that as a compliment because I really like Tommy. I do. I wish, because he's expecting me to manifest my liking of him as a form of subservient. That's not what respecting and liking someone means. It doesn't mean that I'm subservient to you, and I would do anything for you, but it doesn't mean that I'm subservient. I would come to your house, I would wax your floors, but it doesn't mean that I'm subservient. It means that I'm making a gesture towards you. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that. Agoye says, I guess you're Tommy 2.0. That is such a beautiful title that you would even call me that, because I actually like Tommy. Matter of fact, Tommy 2.0, that's the best name. Let me write it down because it was written. You wrote it down, I second that motion. Tommy 2.0, because I like Tommy. 2.0, that's funny. That is super funny. I like that. I really do. So, I hope that Tommy, because at that moment as well, Agoye, I had also been communicating to Tommy through his website and his email. At that moment, he acted like he didn't understand who I was. And that's another reason where he becomes a girl. He becomes a hypocritical valley girl. Now that I'm doing live, because before I didn't do live, do you know what happens when you make a comment, Agoye? It comes right on my screen. I didn't know that. Imagine that I was sitting on the chat and I was making comments after comments, and Tommy acted like he had never seen me prior. So that's called capricious. Capricious, being so capricious is a female. That's one of the worst female traits I don't like, when a female is capricious. That female will stab you and act like she never saw you. She never saw the knife coming towards you. Okay? Let me see if this is an English word, capricious. Because I use it in French all the time. I hope I'm not making up a word. Yeah, it is an English word, capricious. That's what he acted like in that moment. And I was graceful. I acted just as if he had not known. I gave him that leniency. I gave him that it's not a pass, but I gave him the go. I let it go. Tony, this is what capricious means. Capricious means giving to sudden and unaccountable changes of mood or behavior. A person who's capricious will also, a lot of the things they do, it will be really it will be like left to your interpretation. Meaning they can take one thing and turn it into something else. I don't like that. Fickle. I don't like that. They tell you, this is what they say, a capricious. So this is how they use it. A capricious and often brutal administration. That's one of the sentence. That's how they use that word in a sentence. Do you understand, Agoye, to where I was coming from with Tommy? Because it does display. Those are all things that I diagnosed, okay, by evidence of the manifestations of his behavior, of the way he manifests what he does. That's the evidence I took to say what I was saying. It was in no way to be disrespectful. Why would I want to be disrespectful to somebody? But I'm never going to take down my intelligence for anyone else so I can make you feel comfortable or so I can big up the way you're capricious. I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to turn down my light so you can brighten yours. That's never going to happen. And Tommy expects those things from a woman because he's a United Statian male. And that's why I'm using the point of reference where I'm using the Haitian culture, manhood in that culture, compared to manhood in the United States. He's expecting too much from me at that moment. And he's expecting so much from me that my desire to work with him vanished. I haven't felt it since yesterday. Vanished. I do not compromise for rank. I do not compromise to get things. I do not compromise to achieve things. I do not compromise my soul, my character, my being for things. I don't compromise them for relations with other humans. I am, aside from the men I love, I actually don't do friendship. Because a lot of times when you do friendship, it asks you to compromise. That is such a good title you gave me there, Agoye. I am going to keep it. Tommy 2.0, yay. I love Tommy. Tick Evans says, no, Queen, I feel I'm rude, not just listening to you and chanting typing. fine. I enjoy the interaction. This is an interactive platform. Without you typing here, I would also feel like I'm not reaching anyone, so I appreciate it. I appreciate your participation, okay? Tonight, I begin to speak about crisis in manhood. What I will do right now is I will do a quick drop, Tick Evans says, I don't like Tommy. He is funny sometimes, though. If he directly acted me, I would destroy him. And you also have to understand how capricious Tommy was and how he acted like if he directly attacked me, I would destroy him. Okay, I understand now. You have to understand the way he acted like an undercover whore. At the moment where I said something he did not like, because at the moment I did not call him an undercover whore, I said his behavior, the way he was acting, it was a comparison. Immediately he hung up. Because at the moment I was bringing up something that he knew was true. Immediately he hung up, but then he said to let me speak on the chat. That's a setup. I don't seek confrontations. I have this relationship with violence. I don't seek violence. I don't seek confrontations. But the violence that comes to me, the confrontation that comes to me, I treat it like a beautiful penis. I ride it. If confrontation comes to me, I'll ride it. If violence comes to me, I'll ride it. But the relationship that I have with those two things, I don't seek for them. I don't promote it. I don't put gasoline in the fire. But like I said, I won't back away from what comes to me. I'll ride it. I will treat it like a beautiful penis. I'll ride it. So tonight I begin to speak about a crisis in manhood. There is a crisis in manhood in the United States. And tonight what I did is I did a backdrop, because it's okay to speak about the crisis, but if we cannot provide solutions, if we cannot find where this crisis originates, we might as well be throwing rocks in the rivers. Okay? Agoye says, this is why I say you haven't watched him long enough. From the time that I have been watching his work, anytime he allowed anyone to get close to his square, 99% of the time, he got stabbed in the back. I understand. I like Tommy. I don't know how many times I have to say that for you to believe me. When I told Tommy, when I suggested to Tommy to have me on, because don't forget, Tommy has a lot of people on. The first time I asked Tommy to have me on his show, it was to have me on his show as a guest, and I wrote him a note in his email explaining my qualifications, explaining that I'm an author. This is one of my books. This is a novel. This novel is called Family Values. You can buy this novel from my website, lahinipierre.com. It's in English. So from the moment that I introduced myself, I sent all that information. If Tommy wanted to know more about me, he had the opportunity to do that. But, you know, there's a proverb in my country. It says, if the cat got took by hot water, he's going to see cold water and run. I don't blame him. So when he hung up on me, that was emotional. That was too emotional for me. Okay, that was too emotional for me. But at the same time, you understand why he did that. I don't yet understand why he did that. But I'm not saying he did anything wrong. It didn't hurt me in any way. I mean, hanging up on me, that was disrespectful. He says I disrespected him. He wanted to get back on me. Okay. I'm not going to deny myself the inspiration. He inspired me to do what I'm doing now, which is to go live and start speaking about the crisis in manhood. And I'm going to continue to speak about it every night. Tonight we started speaking about the originator of that crisis in manhood. The originator is the birth process, it's the conception, it's the process of conception in the United States. Because we see in the United States, the women, they start to ruin what's in the womb from the moment of conception. There are things that they eat, there are things that they take, especially when they take confetti drugs or they take prescription drugs. One of the most damaging factors is the prescription drugs. Well, one of the most damaging factors is the prescription drugs, because people think it's okay just because the doctor gave it to you. So those women, they contaminate their womb, and after the child is born, they still contaminate the the coming out process of that child. That child is not given enough nurturing, it's not given enough breast milk, it's also not given enough bonding with his mother, because his mother is a slave. She has to run to the plantation. Me, when I became a mother, I said, fuck that. Ain't nobody gonna make me run in the morning. I'm not running for you. I'm gonna stay here. I don't care if I have $1 million or $1. I don't care if I eat 1 meal or 1 million meals. I'm not going nowhere. I'm not leaving my kids. I don't care if I'm homeless in the streets. I'm holding them with me. I'm not leaving them to go chase little money, to go serve other people. So that's the decision I made, and I'm encouraging other women to make that same decision. In Haiti, it's not a matter of feminism or this or that. It's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do by your child. If you stay home, it doesn't mean that you're a submissive woman. If you take care of your children, if you're not ready, don't have them. So because of the lack of bonding that we find that happens to a lot of these men as they are growing up, to a lot of these males as they are growing up, we find that's what creates the detachment. That's what creates a lot of the detachment, to where these men, they are growing up, they are not even aware that they're missing this bonding. And this bonding itself would have taught them a lot. The first responsibility for that man is toward his mother. Like in my culture, the first thing a man does when he gets money, he buys his mother a gift. If his mother is poor, he'll buy her a house. If she already has money, he'll buy her more. Because that man grew up with a bond. And according to that bond, he cannot help it. It's innate in him. It flows through him to serve to his mother, to return the favors that she did for him, because he understands that she took so much time to nurture him. And now that he's nurtured and he's fully grown, he usually pays back the mother with a lot. Like I have one of my cousins, like my great auntie's son. My great auntie's son, like he's an intellectual as well, and his mother educated him so well. So by the time he became an adult, where he was a male making a lot of money, my God, he spoiled her with everything. And that's what that's what men do in my culture. There are responsibilities. So that's one of the things I spoke about. As a result of the lack of bonding, even the natural responsibility towards the woman that's your mother, we don't see that frequently in the United States. A lot of times these males, when they become rich, they don't even care for their mamas. They just move on to the wife and children. And that's the honest to God truth, okay? Agoye, tell Tommy I say hello, okay? I will continue this, invite Tommy to watch my live. I will be back tomorrow. And I will continue this topic. I will continue this discussion. Tomorrow I will log on about midnight, 11:45 midnight, because I also do Facebook Live for the Haitian community, for my community. And so I'll be doing Facebook Live. I go on Facebook Live at 10 p.m. every night, minus the weekends. And then sometimes the weekends, but most likely minus the weekends. And then I would come live here at 11:45-ish, okay? I do thank all of you who took the time to watch my live, and I just love the fact that people participated. Agoye, I thank you so much. Teak Evans, I thank you so much. I thank you, Steve Bobo. I thank you guys for participating. And don't forget to turn back tomorrow. I will continue this discussion, because we have a crisis in manhood. We have to understand where it's coming from. Okay, we have to identify it. We have to have another culture that can give us a good point of reference so we can compare it. So we already discussed the lack of bonding, and I want a lot of you to go and think about that, the lack of bonding that happens between mother and child. A lot of you women, you are going to work for bullshit jobs, and after 10 years of your child never having you there, for the $250,000 you make, it ain't nothing. Like me, if my son didn't have me around, I don't know where he would be right now. He'll probably be raped, lost, taken into other people's custody. Because a lot of these males, what they're looking for is a young man to ruin. Is a young man to suck their dick. That's all they're looking for. So me, as a woman, I stayed home to make sure that victim would never be mine. I made sure for that. I made sure to take care of that. I made sure to stay home to ensure that would never happen to mine, my kin, my son. Okay? So there are a lot of abuse, a lot of things that are happening to men out there, to males, especially when they're young. the influence of other men. Like, you have people who create religious cults just so they can prey on young males. So it's tough out there. It's tough. Every night, about 11:45, I will tune in and I will start talking about the crisis in manhood. And sometimes, most likely, I'm going to put Tommy Sotomayor's name because, like he says, when you put his name, you get views. I don't have views. I don't have a network that is grand yet, and so I'm building it, and I wouldn't mind using his name. So I'll probably do that. I'll put Tommy Sotomayor, but it will not mean that I'm speaking about him or that I don't like him or that I have beef. No, I love Tommy Sotomayor. I actually like him. And I love him because I love everybody else, okay? Agoye says, do you know that if you want to destroy a society, the first thing that you do is to corrupt the female of that society? This crisis that we black people are facing in the US is because our female have been corrupted. I added the ED for you. Our female have been corrupt. Agoye, if you go in my list of videos that I have here, there is a video that I do on Africa Bambata. I'm going to put the link of it right there on this live, okay? And then in this video that I do on Africa Bambata, you're going to see me talking about exactly what you just said. The corruption of the female brought about the corruption of all of the entire society. Yes, I agree with you 100%. That was that's one of the, we're going to get into it because I cannot speak about this in one live. So I'm going to make it like a continuation. So this is part 1. And then tomorrow we'll go to, yes, sir, I see your corruption. Tomorrow we'll go to part 2 and we'll continue. What you just said right now is one of the prime reasons. Once you corrupt the females, it's a done deal. Because it's we who raise the male. It's we who carry them in our womb. It's we who grow them. And that's why you have to stay home to do a good job. That's why you can't be hopping from bullshit job to bullshit job, making petty cash, petty money, bullshit money. That money that you make ain't shit. I hate to see a female who cannot do the math. Me, I'm so good at math. Not only am I good at math, I'm good at using math to make it make sense in my own life. I've loved mathematics since I was a little girl, all right? So mathematics is still a love of mine. And if I didn't have math in my life, I probably would have been fucked right now. Yes, if the females are corrupt, it's a done deal. And when we look at the United States of America, the females are corrupt. So I'm going to put the link here for you, Agoye, when I'm talking about this topic. I'm going to put the link here for you, and then you can go watch it. It was a video that I did about Africa Bambata, because what happened with Africa Bambata, when he ruined the males by abusing young boys and sucking their dicks, their penis, when he did that, their penises, when he ruined them, he also ruined the women. And directly, he ruined the women more than he could have ever ruined the males, because the males are going to have a different attitude towards the women now. Because don't forget, when you're heterosexual and your ejaculation is depending on a female, and all of a sudden the strong lips of a male grab your penis, you forget that loyalty to the vagina, you forget that loyalty to the female. Now you have to revise. Now you can dare speak crazy to that female. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. But the women were ruined by the men. So we still have a chance to help out these males. And that's why I'm going to do the lives every night now, to make sure that we are helping out the males. This is the, I'm going to put the link here for you, Agoye, of where I speak on that topic. All right, guys, I'm not going to keep too much of your time. I do appreciate all of you who stopped in, even those of you who didn't stay, all together all that time. But there were a few people who came in and out. And if you came in and out, don't forget to like the live. Okay, guys? I appreciate you coming to watch me and to share with me. Most likely to share with me. Okay, guys? Tomorrow, I'll be back. I'll be back better than the Terminator, I promise. Buenas noches. Buenas tardes a vosotros.